Hey y'all, it's Tuesday, June 9th. Yeah, June 9th. I always forget I never know the date during the summer, or ever since this corona stuff started. Today in the kitchen, we're going to be making some hot garlic dill pickles. Now these are my kids. They're my kids' favorite pickles. Most kids do love really sour, spicy pickles. This is a really easy recipe. You don't need any, special ingredients or spices really, except some dill and some garlic. So for this recipe, you will need a 9% vinegar, or 9-grain, or 90 barrel. You might see it different ways, but normally your regular vinegar is 5%. But this one 9%, and it gives you a little more of a kick there. So what I've done is I like to use this glass pot here. You can use a stainless steel pot. You can use a kettle there, like a Dutch oven. And what I've done is I've taken 1 cup of the 9% vinegar and 3 cups of water and 3 tablespoons of salt. And I am going to use a pickling salt for this. You can use kosher salt. It'll work just the same, but the salinity may be a little different there. So I've put that in a pot to boil. We bring it to a boil, and right now it's just a little bitty bubbles. I don't want to evaporate a lot of the water. And what I've done is I like to use cucumbers that are they'll fit, in the palm of my hand. And I like to use the pint jars with the large opening there. And what I do is you can leave them whole, and I'll kind of tell you what to do there. I like to do spears. So what I do is I set it, you set it to where your cucumber's flat so that your spears, are pretty even. I take off the blossom and a little bit. Usually I'll use this peeler so I don't take as much. And I save those for the chickens. The chickens like that. That's a little treat. So it's sitting flat, and I cut it right down the middle because I'm trying to get pretty uniform spears. Now, this is really important that you don't see fully formed seeds. If you see fully formed seeds, your cucumber got too big for pickles. Now they're great to eat. Put in your water. And so what I've done is I just spear them. And this is just some of the spears I've done this morning. I'm going to make probably about 9 pints. So what I did is I doubled my amount of vinegar and water. Normally, just a regular recipe is for if you're going to do quarts, 3 quarts of pickles, it's enough. But I always do extra. The ingredients are cheap. It's not expensive, so if I've got extra, that's okay. I can always pour them over some onions, tomatoes, and cucumbers, and make a little salad. Well, I just spilled that one. Okay, I'll have to wash those cucumbers off. I had them in a jar to show you, so I'll just wash those off. My elbow got that. Also, to make them hot, you can use peppers. Now, I just got peppers from my garden. I have some jalapenos, and I cut a slit in the jalapenos. I also planted a new pepper this year called Calabrian. It's an Italian pepper. I let them dry on the plant and picked them. They're supposed to have kind of a smoky flavor. When they first come on the plant, they are a dark purple. They almost look black, and they make a really pretty, almost like an ornamental pepper. And then they change red, and they're still plump, and if you leave them, they'll dry. And what you can do is, if you like to make hot pepper flakes, you can put these, if you have a whole bunch of dry ones, put them in a little food mill or little food processor, and once they're totally dry, and make you some hot pepper flakes. I'm gonna try that, because I'm gonna make an Italian seasoning. I'm gonna dry my own herbs and do my hot pepper flakes. So dill. You can use fresh dill if you have it in your area where you can get it fresh, and you would use the dill, the dill plant. Around here, some people may still have dill in their garden. Mine, I planted it in the fall, so it's done. When it starts getting hot, it's done. So what I do is I freeze it. It looks kind of like seaweed, but still smells like dill, and you want to use the fresh dill weed. If you don't have fresh dill weed, you can use dill seeds, which you get at the grocery store. Do not use the dried dill weed. They say not to do that. Last year I used the dill seeds, and it tasted great. So I'm going to do a little bit of both this year. And then garlic. You can use cloves of garlic. I'm going to try one of them with some minced garlic. I've never done that before, but I didn't have enough garlic, and I didn't want to run to the store, because we have to go to another town. We don't have any fresh garlic here in town. My thing keeps going down there. So what I've done is I've put the dill weed in the bottom, and I've put the garlic in the bottom of the jar. I have sterilized these, but I've let them cool a little bit so I can handle them. And then it takes about 3 of those pickles I showed you to make a jar, which about 12 spears. So I just start laying them in there, and you can kind of alternate front and back or inside to outside. And then, once you get a few in there, if you're using different peppers, you'll want to stick your pepper so you can see it. And I put the top down to the very, very bottom. So there's my little jalapeno right there. And I just keep on filling my jar like this. Now, if you're going to use whole pickles, you would use a Dutch oven with your vinegar, water, salt mixture, and you would drop the whole cucumbers in there, and as soon as they change color from bright green to kind of olive green, then you cut the heat off. It takes about a minute, and take them out and fill your jars. If you're going to do whole, like if you wanted to pick them smaller, or you wanted to do bigger jars with whole pickles in them, I've done that before. I do these raw because if I dropped them in, they would be soft. So I want these are really crunchy pickles. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll try to get 2 more. So sometimes you gotta force it in there. Now, if your cucumbers are a little big, a little long, just cut them to size to fit. If you like to use this kind of jar. If you're using quart jars, they're taller. So I think this is probably the last one. Yep. It's like they can be tight. See, look, they're in there tight. I've got 12 in there. I've got my jalapeno, and this one's ready to fill with my solution there. So I'm going to fill it to a 1/4 inch headspace, and I'll take my lids out of the boiling water, put my rims on. Once I have all those done, once I get 7 of them, because my canner will hold 7 jars, I'll put them in there, make sure they're covered with the water's coming up above them about an inch to 2 inches, and bring that to a rolling boil for 10 minutes. And then when it's done, cut it off, and I'll take the jars out, and they'll seal. Now, for the flavor, you can eat them right away, but the flavor will develop over time. They'll get more the garlic, the dill, The pepper, if you don't want them hot, don't put a pepper. If you're sensitive to garlic, don't put garlic. Some people put onion in there, a slice of onion in the bottom. You can experiment with different things. So if you've got some cucumbers growing in your garden, or a neighbor comes and begs you to take a bag of cucumbers, or even at the farmer's market. I bought some of these from a local farmer. Some of them are mine. Mine are not in full production yet, but I wanted to go ahead and get some pickles made for my boys because they like them, and Stephen likes them. And I'll be making some more later on. If you want to, it says you can add 1/4 teaspoon of alum, which will crispen them up. You want to be sure that your cucumbers are very fresh. If they're not, you'll end up with kind of a rubbery texture pickle, which is not good. You want a nice crisp pickle, and the way I've done this, we stick them in the fridge, even right out of the jar. They're a nice crisp pickle. I think that was it as far as the ingredients and everything I do. So it's a pretty easy process. It just takes a little bit of time to do that. Jars are kind of scarce right now around here because a lot of people are pickling, and so if you're in an area where you're not pickling yet and you want to make some pickles, go get your jars if you don't have any. These are jars I've had for years, and I just keep using them over and over. Be sure to check them for cracks, check them for chips. You don't want to use those. You can use them for just something else where you're not having to process. Now, one of these I had a question about. I had a jar that says refrigerator and freezer jar. This has straighter sides. This is what you would use for like freezer jam, or you're going to freeze something in water to where you leave the headspace and it will expand upward and not crack your jar. And I looked online to see if you could water bath this, and you can. So if you have any that say freezer, refrigerator, freezer, it's okay. You can also use them for water bath canning. I don't know about pressure canning. I didn't look into that yet. So all you need is 9% vinegar, some canning salt, some water, some fresh dill weed or dill seed, some garlic cloves, or even some chopped up garlic, any hot peppers that you like. And like I said, some people add a 1/4 teaspoon of alum. I don't. Mine are just fine without it there. And then water bath 10 minutes, and let them sit a couple of weeks. If you have one that doesn't seal, after it cools, stick it in the fridge and use that one first. So I hope y'all have a great rest of the week. I know a lot of places are opening up. We've been out to restaurants. We go to worship on Sunday and on Bible class on Wednesday night, and so it's good to be getting out and seeing people, but we got to stay safe. So y'all have a great rest of y'all's week. Bye, y'all.